But let's talk about banking. One of the biggest problems now in the world of commerce is banking. The bankers, controlled by governments and central banks, have really made it difficult for people to make the choices that they want to make with their own money. They act as if they own your money, and as a matter of fact, they tell you right up front, when you go open up a bank account, a checking account, and you read the fine print. I'll show you what you'll find in there. What I have up on the screen right now is the Wells Fargo account holder agreement. And this is the thing that nobody ever reads. Oftentimes they don't even, maybe they hand it to you in a stack of paperwork that goes in your file, and you don't even read it. But let me tell you what the average bank account holder agreement actually says, and why you should. I tell people to only keep in the banks what you can afford to lose. So you only want to use banks for cashing checks, moving money through, but absolutely not as a place for parking or saving your money. And here's why. The Wells Fargo account holder agreement says the following. It says, the bank may accept and act on any legal process that it believes is valid, whether served in person, by mail, or by facsimile transmission, at any bank location. Legal process includes, without limitation, a levy, garnishment or attachment, tax levy or withholding order, injunction, restraining order, subpoena, search warrant, government agency request for information, or forfeiture relating to your account. It goes on to say, the bank will not notify you of a grand jury subpoena affecting your account. The bank may, at its sole discretion, close your account at any time. When the bank suspects that irregular, unauthorized, or unlawful activities may be involved with your account, the bank may freeze or place on hold the balance in your account and other accounts you maintain with the bank, pending an investigation of such suspected activities. I want to pause right here and ask everyone on this call, how bad would that hurt you if your bank accounts were suddenly frozen today? And then think about how much money you want to keep in there at any one time. So let's talk about banking alternatives. Fortunately, we live in the digital age, and all of you guys as solo entrepreneurs operating on the internet, you are the cutting edge, and people like you have created alternatives for the digital world. But before we go into those digital world alternatives, I want to talk about just traditional, good old-fashioned meat space alternatives that you can begin using right now, even though you're operating an online business. And the first is looking at the age-old strategy of barter. Excellent website that I have to say so myself because I put it together, but it's called bartertycoon.com. And we have a ton of info there on how you can actually make barter a profitable piece of operating your business. A lot of times people out there don't have cash to trade for your products or services, but they have something they're not using that has value that they'd be willing to give you in exchange for your products or services. So this is a way you can maximize your return and turn your products and services into currency that you can trade for other people's unwanted items or assets that may no longer have value to them, but could definitely have value to you. A lot of you guys are also marketing information products. So the cost of your goods is basically zero after you've got everything built. So you can go out there and literally print your own money by way of trading your products and services for other people's goods and services because your initial investment has already been made, and now it's just pure profit because you're trading digital information. Other banking alternatives are just trading in physical dollars, otherwise known as cash. There's nothing wrong with buying and selling with cash nowadays, and it's actually more private. There's a reason why drug dealers deal in cash, is because it's very hard to trace. It also saves you the trouble of waiting for banks to clear checks. So don't underestimate the power of dealing in cash or physical dollars. Money orders. I've operated my business online for a long time, but I get paid in cash, in money orders, and I have not accepted credit cards in years. And most internet marketers will look at that and say, how does this guy operate online? And he never takes credit cards. That's ridiculous. I don't take PayPal. You'll see why in a minute. So anyway, keep your eyes and ears open to these different strategies. Recycled checks, fun strategy to accept checks and money orders without having to even have a bank account personally. If someone sends you a money order or a check, you could simply endorse the back of it and write pay to the order of, and you can forward it on to pay one of your bills or pay somebody else that you want to pay without ever having to deposit it into a personal checking account or a business checking account. And so there's ways you can do that, and we go into more detail on how you do that in our members area. And gift cards. You can buy a Visa gift card down at your local store and use that to make online purchases and protect your privacy a whole lot more than having one Visa card or account card that creates a profile of every transaction you've ever done that's easily available for any third party who has the ability to go in and request those records. So gift cards give you a higher degree of privacy, and you can use those to pay for your online services like web hosting and autoresponders and stuff like that. Gold and silver, good old-fashioned physical assets like gold and silver. I've actually received payment in silver and gold before for my products and services, and they just mailed it to me. So that's something you can do as well. And the new, most exciting commodity for trade now is called Bitcoin. And I'm sure some of you have heard of Bitcoin.
Let's find out, Steve. Let's see if how many of you have heard of Bitcoin or know anything about Bitcoin at all. Just go ahead and click on the little hand button over to the right, and just so we know who's heard of it and who's okay. Yeah, we've got a lot of people. I mean, I think part of it is because in the DC in the Dynamite Circle, there's been a lot of discussion about it, but possibly some of these people are actually using it or have a little more knowledge on it.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that, and I hope there's some skeptics on this webinar about Bitcoin, because I was a skeptic when I first heard about it a couple of years ago, and I quickly discarded it because I couldn't see that it was backed by anything, and then I later realized that was a fallacy in thinking, and but by ignoring it at that time, it cost me probably tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, because at the time I heard of it, Bitcoin was trading at about 5 cents a Bitcoin. By the time I finally decided to appreciate it and investigate it and start using it, it was trading around $5 or $6 a Bitcoin. So I could have acquired quite a few of them, but I discounted it out of hand without really taking the time to study it. And it probably, cost me maybe $1 million if I would have jumped in it at that time. It was just a 6-month period before I finally decided to take it seriously. So in that 6 months, the value went up that much. So let's continue on that. I want to jump into a video, and this is just a real short 2-minute video. Bear with me. I just want to play it for the few of you who have not heard of it before. I just want you to get a quick bird's eye view of what Bitcoin does, how it's created, where it comes from, and this video just does a much better job than I do. So I'm going to jump out to that video, expand the screen a little bit, and we'll play this for you, and hopefully it comes across real well. If not, we can provide links after this webinar so you can go find these on the web and view these on your own, but we'll just give it a good try here.
What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is the first decentralized digital currency. Bitcoins are digital coins you can send through the internet. Compared to other alternatives, Bitcoins have a number of advantages. Bitcoins are transferred directly from person to person via the net, without going through a bank or clearinghouse. This means that the fees are much lower, you can use them in every country, your account cannot be frozen, and there are no prerequisites or arbitrary limits. Let's look at how it works. Bitcoins are generated all over the internet by anybody running a free application called a Bitcoin miner. Mining requires a certain amount of work for each block of coins. This amount is automatically adjusted by the network such that Bitcoins are always created at a predictable and limited rate. Your Bitcoins are stored in your digital wallet, which might look familiar if you use online banking. When you transfer Bitcoins, an electronic signature is added. After a few minutes, the transaction is verified by a miner and permanently and anonymously stored in the network. The Bitcoin software is completely open source, and anybody can review the code. Bitcoin is changing finance the same way the web changed publishing. When everyone has access to a global market, great ideas flourish. Let's look at some examples of how Bitcoins are already used today. You can purchase video games, gifts, books, servers, and alpaca stocks. Several currency exchanges exist where you can trade your Bitcoins for dollars, euros, and more. Bitcoins are a great way for small businesses and freelancers to get noticed. It doesn't cost anything to start accepting them. There are no chargebacks or fees, and you'll get additional business from the Bitcoin economy. For your first Bitcoins and more information, visit weusecoins.com.
So, okay, so that gives you kind of a bird's eye view of what Bitcoin is and where it comes from. We'll definitely be able to answer some questions on that as we progress in this presentation towards the end. And I'm going to go into a little more detail here. Bitcoin features and benefits. There's so many, it's hard to really break it down, but I've listed a few here that I can go over with you guys. Number one is there's a limited supply of Bitcoin. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins ever issued into circulation. And the creators, or the original crypto anarchists or cypherpunks that created this, wanted to set it up so that it mimicked gold, in that the more you mine for it, the harder it is to get, and there's only a finite supply of gold in the earth. And so that's what made it a very good medium of exchange and a storage of value, because it was in limited supply. So that helped maintain value. And so Bitcoin was created to where it progressively, the issuance of the Bitcoin progressively slows over time to where it maxes out at 21 million Bitcoins ever in circulation. Now, the first question a lot of people ask is, well, if there's only 21 million Bitcoins, how is that going to power the global economy? Well, because it's all digital, each Bitcoin it's actually divisible to 8 decimal points. So those 8 decimal points can handle an economy of over $21 trillion. And if you find, if we get to that point in the future at some point, and we need to make Bitcoin divisible to even, more than 8 decimal points, it's a simple modification of the code that people can vote on and can adopt if they want to. So this helps create value, unlike the Federal Reserve or other central banks that can add or subtract to the money supply at will, throwing the ability for entrepreneurs to plan their businesses into disarray when they can't rely on a stable and steady money supply. And Bitcoin allows you to do that. Bitcoin is also decentralized. It can't be shut down. It's structured is the peer-to-peer file sharing system, much like the music peer-to-peer file sharing sites. The only way they can shut it down is if they shut down the whole internet. And they will not do that, because if they did that, they would shut down the global economy, and riots would rise up in the streets, and governments would be overthrown. So it is decentralized. There's no central point of failure. There's no central issuer. PayPal, the original idea behind PayPal was to be a people's type of money, but because it was centrally located, it was easily to be intimidated into being adopted into the current banking system, and you lost all privacy when you began using it. So Bitcoin is not subject to that weakness.